Liliana with Event Craft Studio, Seasonal Wreaths and Holiday Decor. And tonight I wanted to review how many different types of wreath forms and wreath types that there are. Like I've said before, when people think of wreaths, you would originally or usually automatically think of Christmas. And that's not the case, especially nowadays. But also, even if you're thinking of Christmas, there are many different wreath types or different forms that you could use to make the wreath for that specific holiday. So I wanted to go over, I'm gonna get started with the first type of wreath, just because these are gonna be empty because I don't have this type of, I don't have any inventory right now with these forms. So the first types of forms that you have, and these are actually becoming very, very popular nowadays. The first wreath form is the hoop. You tend to, I don't have any of these, like I said, in my store right now, but you have this metal hoop, see that? And usually you find it with flowers, with a bow, sometimes without the bow, but you usually find flowers on these, right? Many different things you could do with these hoops. That's the first. The second is a willow. This is a willow form. See that? These you could actually get at the dollar store. It's the only place where I have been able to locate these, at the Dollar Tree, and I really do love them, but I have not been able to find them anywhere else from retail. So that's the other one. And also, this is also willow, but it's a brown willow. And in this case, you see that I put tulips on it and a natural linen bow. Same exact material. The next wreath form that I'm sure everybody's seen in the craft store is floral foam. With the floral foam, I currently don't have any of these in my store, as I said, but these you usually find when you take craft classes because they're easy to work with. They're very simple to work with. Usually what people do is they take a ribbon and they wrap it around and then add a bow and maybe like a couple of picks to it. Also, another thing that happens a lot is you could find flowers glued to it, or they use a pen to stick the flowers to them. So they're pretty easy to work. I personally like the half because then it's flat. I feel that it's a little bit easier to work when it's not the, see, round like that. I like to show you so you see what I'm talking about. But these are floral foam. You can find them pretty much anywhere, any craft store that you find, different sizes. And like I said, sometimes they have them flat and they're cut off. Next, I'm gonna go by season so you could see the different possibilities or different opportunities that you could have within the same season using different materials. So the most popular that I have been using lately is the grapevine form. So just because it's behind me, I'm gonna start with Thanksgiving. So this wreath form right here, this is a grapevine wreath. It's an oval grapevine. And you tend to usually see a grapevine wreath with florals in it. In this case, it has a bow and it has a sign. This is a Thanksgiving wreath, harvest wreath. It says, welcome friends, with the sign. But again, it is a grapevine wreath. So when people talk to you about grapevine wreath, this is what they're talking about. Grapevine, literally grapevine. You also have, there's that one, painted grapevine. So depending on the season, again, we're still working with Thanksgiving and harvest, fall. This is a painted grapevine wreath. See that? Same exact material, but it's painted in this case. Now, like I mentioned, there's different combinations, or I don't know if I mentioned that, but there are different combinations. Sometimes you have in this case, you have a grapevine wreath, but then you have the mesh material. This is mesh. This is another type of material that's used commonly with wreaths. So here you have a grapevine wreath base with some mesh attached to it. Okay? That's the other type. And of course, like I said, it has florals. And moving on to Halloween. I'm going to continue with the same exact type of wreath. Here I'm showing you two Halloween wreaths, right? They both have signs. They are both grapevines, painted grapevines. One is orange, one is black, and they both also have mesh. These don't have flowers. This one has, well, it does have flowers, but they're black flowers. This one has candy corn picks in it, and they both have ribbon. But they're pretty much the same type of wreath, same style, but again, grapevine. So if you were to look this up anywhere, if you were to be doing a search, this is a grapevine wreath, not a mesh wreath. And since I'm already on Halloween, I'm going to continue with a different type of Halloween wreath. So this, one of my biggest wreaths that I have in my shop. This Halloween wreath is mainly made out of mesh. If you look at it, it's full of mesh, right? You see tons of mesh everywhere, mesh, and ribbon. And then of course you have the signs, you have a little witch here, and some picks. But if you turn it around, this is actually an evergreen. This is the traditional Christmas wreath, but it's being used as a base for a Halloween wreath. And I actually have quite a few wreaths like that in my shop. So if you see something that says that it's on an evergreen base, don't assume that just because you read evergreen or you hear evergreen that it's Christmas. With all the different materials and supplies that we have available nowadays, you could do so much with an evergreen base. So that's just an example. If somebody were to walk up to your door or your wall or wherever you have this, you really wouldn't be able to tell that there was evergreen on this, right? Put it up a little bit closer so you could see. Evergreen on mesh. Because I'm still on Halloween, I did not take out Halloween. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna have to work with another one. This one right here, my apologies, because we're still on Halloween. And I'm transitioning from mesh on evergreen to just mesh. So this is a mesh wreath. This is made on a wire form. So the base is all mesh. And this is mesh with ribbon, and it's made, this is a purple mesh base with mesh on top, and it has ribbons. So those are the two main materials whenever you're searching for a wreath. Whenever it comes to decorative wreaths for your home, you're gonna find mesh and evergreen. But a lot of times we tend not to use the term mesh because usually the customers may not use that terminology. But if you're looking it up, it may so happen that you may come across that term, and that's the reason why, because it is one of the main materials in the wreath. So this one is the base, is everything pretty much about that wreath. Continuing, since I already did that here, oh, that's why. This is another mesh wreath and head out. Same thing, same concept. If you see, and this one, it could actually, the wire form is a little bit more defined. Also purple. Mesh wreath. Okay. So switching gears, I'm going to move over to, I actually want to show you two wreaths, same exact thing, for the same season. So now we have a grapevine wreath, a grapevine floral wreath for, well, let's call it patriotic. And this is a mesh patriotic wreath. See the difference? They both the same material, well, different materials, same seasons, different sizes, but you could also have a large grapevine wreath with florals on it, and I'll show you that in a moment. But you see what we're talking about here? Very different. So very different styles, same exact holiday, same exact season. It all depends on what you're going for, but it doesn't mean that just because you're working with a grapevine, or a mesh wreath, it's gonna have to be whimsical. The reason I say this is because this wreath is a holiday wreath, and it's all mesh. It's for Christmas, and there isn't a bit of evergreen on it. No evergreen. However, I also have, this is a swag, so I want to make sure that I define that. Whenever you look up wreaths, you will tend to also come across swags. This is a swag, teardrop swag to be more specific. However, this teardrop swag is made on an evergreen base, but it also has mesh on it. See that? Evergreen, swag with mesh. And just because a wreath is made out of mesh doesn't mean that it's whimsical. This one is actually pretty elegant. Moving forward, just because I talked about a swag, I wanted to show you, oh, here we go. This is another swag, but this is more known as a lantern swag. What did I say? Oh, hi. Hello, everybody. Hello, family. Here we have a lantern swag. So this lantern swag, I actually showed a couple of days ago how different ways of using wreaths and swags around your home. This lantern swag could be used on a wall, could be used on a door, but I wanted to show you that this is also quality swag, but it's very different than this swag. They're both swags. Swag, swag, very different. Lantern swag, evergreen swag. But in my case, if you look this up in my shop, it doesn't say evergreen swag. Okay, and then finally, if you have any questions, just let me know. Sorry, I have to keep swiping up. Let me see, what else did I miss here? Oh, a regular. Here now we have another swag. I'm kind of trying to transition into the seasons. I'm already on it. Here we have your traditional pine swag. And it is a pine swag. If you look at it, we have the pine. We wanted to show the pines. But we have hydrangeas in this one with the ribbon. But we're not trying to hide the pine in this one. And the other ones, we are trying to pretty much mask them with the materials that we're using. Okay? And finally, the last one that I wanted to show you was... Actually, no, I have a couple of more. I have a couple of more that I want to show you. This is another Christmas one. This one is, we're back to grapevine wreath, right? And this one, we also have the mesh, decorative mesh, and we also have florals, and a sign, and a cardinal sign. So they're very, very different. We have Christmas, sorry, I keep getting out of the shot. You have Christmas, they're both cardinals, but this one's actually very modern, and you have a grapevine, and this one is a pine swag. Same concept, both same holiday, but very different type of materials, right? So that's why my main reason for coming up here today. I wanted to show you the different possibilities that you could have with the season, with the colors, with the materials. Because just because you hear lantern swag, mesh, doesn't mean that it has to be whimsical. You could have an elegant wreath, such as a swag, with mesh. It just depends on the way that the maker executed it. You also have, let me show this one. This is a floral wreath. This is exactly the same materials as the swag that I just showed you, which is right here. And it's on a traditional grapevine. It's not painted. See that? And it's a floral wreath. This one does not have any mesh. It does have a bow, but sometimes you will see a grapevine wreath with florals on it and it does not have a bow on it. So just because you have this material does not mean, or a wreath doesn't mean you have to have a bow. And also, if you could custom order it, just talk to the person that's making it for you, and they could also give them direction, tell them what you want. But you see, same exact thing, same exact materials if you look at it, but the bases are different. Okay? And I think that is it. I think that I pretty much went through all... Oh, that broke. Oopsie, that's too heavy. I think that's about it. Oh, last one. Sorry, I keep saying that. This is another grapevine, but this one has a sign and florals. So if you add a sign on this one, the other Easter one, you could say this one could be the one that I just dropped. Could be used for Easter, could be used for Mother's Day, could be used for spring. This one as well, but the difference is that this one has a sign, so it automatically makes it for Easter. Take off the sign, you can use it all spring. Both are grapevines. See that? But they look different. So whenever you're shopping for your wreaths, just know the language, because you may limit yourself on what you're looking for and your opportunities to shop simply because you don't know the language. So the main things that you're looking for are grapevine. You have mesh. Again, just because you hear about mesh, don't think that it means that it's whimsical. Mesh could be elegant. Just because it's grapevine does not mean that it has to be elegant. It could be whimsical. If not, I mean, how whimsical is this, right? And it's grapevine. And you also have painted grapevine. So just because it's grapevine doesn't mean that it's brown. You find grapevine in all different kinds of colors nowadays. You have grapevine in black. I showed you an orange one. And did I show you? Yes, I did. And I showed you two different types of the same orange grapevine, but one was for Halloween and the other one was for harvest, and yet they look so different, and it's the same exact base. So that's about it. I think I pretty much covered everything. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great Friday, everyone. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.